When one thinks of the worst vice presidents, Georgia native Alexander Hamilton Stevens isn't usually thought of, primarily because he served this role as a member of the Confederate States of America, or CSA, during the American Civil War. For much of his early political career, Stevens served as a representative first in Georgia and then as an official House member from 1843 to 1859. During his time in Congress, Stevens became a member of the Whig Party before eventually shifting over to the Democrats in the mid-1850s. When the Republicans won the presidential election of 1860, Stevens was against the idea of secession when it came to the southern states, yet at the same time he supported secession if northern states continued to oppose the Fugitive Slave Act, which forced Americans to return slaves or people accused of being slaves back to their masters. In 1861, the Confederate Congress chose Stevens as their first and only vice president who served under Jefferson Davis, the former senator of Mississippi turned president of the Confederate States of America. The relationship between Stevens and Davis was far from great. While both men were slaveholders, Stevens disapproved of Davis's efforts when it came to the war and other political decisions. Perhaps the most infamous point of Stevens' vice presidency would have to be the cornerstone speech he gave in March of 1861. In that speech, he mentions everything from the South's decision to secede was based on slavery to the idea of all men are created equal being ridiculous, and claims that African Americans being subordinate to the white people, who he calls the superior race, is just the natural way of things. When the tide of the Civil War began to turn in favor for the Union Army, both Davis and Stevens would be arrested for treason against the United States, but both would be released in the months and years that followed. Aside from briefly serving as governor of Georgia for 5 months prior to his passing on March 4, 1883, Stevens would be one of the earliest names to push the lost cause narrative when it came to the South's decision to leave the U.S. Unfortunately for Stevens and his legacy, his efforts in whitewashing the South's motives for secession no longer stand the test of time, and his views expressed in the cornerstone speech along with being a slaveholder has forever tarnished his reputation, and rightfully so.